Good morning and happy hump day, SimWorld, and welcome into SimWorld today. I am Marsh, joined by a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Ceej this morning. Good morning, Ceej. How are you feeling?
Good morning, Marsh. I'm really feeling the spirit of hump day, and I'm
Go.
excited. I'm just excited for the day, just excited for it.
You are exuding excitement. Look, and
Oh,
whether you're a brother or you're a mother or you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're staying alive as Minnesota survives last night to beat the Dallas Mavericks on the road, Siege, in a huge Western Conference Game 4. For whatever reason, Ant said the real motivation was to not get swept. Let's hope that doesn't mean a Game 5 flameout, but the Wolves are going back home for a Game 5 down 3-1.
I mean, look, I guess that's a motivation, not get swept. I would have thought the motivation was, I believe that's the first time Kyrie Irving has lost in a series clinching situation. He is now 14-1 in series clinching situations. So that's pretty cool for the Wolves. If we're taking moral victories, that's awesome. But this Wolves team, really great, really young. I'm sure they've got a really bright future. Do I think this changes a series outcome at all? No. But if that's the motivation not to get swept, then goal accomplished. Awesome. Great job.
Well, you want to, anytime a game ends, you always want to figure out, hey, what went right, what went wrong. Truthfully, what seemed like in this game, the thing that went right for Minnesota is Karl Anthony Towns didn't play like absolute hot garbage. I mean, he actually played like the guy that's supposed to be the number 2 dude on this team. He shot 9 of 13, 4 of 5 from deep. The regression to the mean had never been stronger for Karl Anthony Towns. He was plus 15, a team high. The Wolves are still going to have their challenges, but I think that we being the fans, but the Minnesota has been unlucky through these first 3 games, led with 5 minutes left to go in all 3 games of this series before tonight, including last night. This was just the regression of, yes, Karl Anthony Towns returned to the mean. This team got back to being what they would expect, or what we would expect them to do to be able to close out. But do you think there's any chance they keep this train going, or do you think this is it?
I mean, maybe they get one more, but I mean, nobody's ever come back 3-0. So I don't think I'm betting on that happening in this series. No shot unless Nas Reed, they really let Nas Reed go and let him do his thing. Um, no, I don't think there's any change. I think they got one. I think that's awesome. Give us another game of Western Conference basketball. That's awesome. But no, I don't think this means anything for them potentially winning the series. No.
Kevin Millar would like a word about nobody coming back from down 3-0. There still seems to be no answer though for Luka Doncic and that pick and roll. Every single time, it was borderline boring to just watch it sometimes, Siege, because every single time, not every obviously, but 95% it felt like they would bring Daniel Gafford up into the pick and roll, engage Rudy Gobert in the pick and roll, and then Luka would just put Jaden McDaniels, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Kyle Anderson on his back hip, mosey his way down to the free throw line, and then either lob it up to Gafford or shoot a free throw line jumper or dive in, get a easy layup or kick to the corner for a three. So they need to figure out if the Wolves are going to make this thing all the way back. They're going to have to figure out some other option besides drop coverage for Rudy Gobert, because it's unsustainable to think you're going to win 3 more games with that as the defense, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's telling. We all saw the clip in Game 3 when Rudy got switched on to Luka Doncic at the end of the game before he hit that shot, and you could see Jaden McDaniels' face as he switched on to him. You saw Jaden McDaniels kind of like, that's it. If even your teammates know, I don't really know what the answer is to that, because the thing is, basketball is a really complex game, but it's also a really simple game for some people. And Luka Doncic is one of those guys who has that IQ. You talked about that pick and roll situation, either dumping it off to Gafford, that free throw line jumper, floater, whatever it is. I mean, he makes it look really simple. The pick and roll it's a simple tenet of basketball, and he makes it look really simple. The problem is, it's simple, but it's not simple to stop. So I don't know what you do with Rudy Gobert in that. You got to figure something out. The answer might be playing Rudy Gobert less minutes. I don't know if that really works for them or not, but to me, maybe the front court duo of Naz Reid and Karl Anthony Towns playing more maybe gives you a little more flexibility, a little more mobility in those situations. That's all I can think of if I'm the Wolves.
Yeah, I would think that Naz Reid should be getting more than 20 minutes. I thought he was -10 last night, but I thought he played really well when he was out there. Let's head to the other side where Boston Celtics are sitting with their feet up, and they are loving seeing this game or this series go even one game longer is a positive for them because the SWBA finals aren't going to start until June 6th, so more than a week away. Rest is always the conundrum. I think you've got two schools of thought, obviously. People that say it's the greatest thing in the world, and then people say it gets you out of rhythm. What's your take? Is rest going to help? Is rest going to hurt a Celtics team that has been on a roll throughout these playoffs?
To me, it's a conundrum. I think there's kind of a simple ideology I like to employ. More experienced teams, I think rest helps. I think if it's a young team, I'll use the Timberwolves, for example. The Timberwolves have been hot. They've been on a crazy run. They're a young team. They haven't necessarily been here before. I think too much rest could hurt that team because I think they stay hot. They've got a lot of momentum. A team like the Celtics, they've been to the finals. They've been in the playoffs quite a few times before. Drew Holiday's an NBA champion. You got quite a few guys who have been here before. So I think that rest doesn't really hurt them. If anything, it helps. So I think for them, this is the perfect situation. They get to sit here and they get to rest and they get to go over what they're doing. They get to game plan. They get to watch their opponents because they are a more experienced team. I don't think the loss of momentum, or if you want to call it that, the loss of momentum, the rest is going to hurt them quite as much as it might a younger team.
Here's my concern with this argument, because if you're in the postseason and especially the finals, if you can't just get back into a swing of this is the most meaningful game that we're going to play, regardless of the sport, I don't know that I think you're going to win in general. Because rest, to me, everyone comes like, oh, they're out of rhythm, they're a little rusty. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be, because your focus level should be at an all-time high at this point of the season. And so if rest knocks you out of that, and then game one comes out and you weren't ready for them, they were more prepared or they were more aggressive, then what are you doing in the postseason? I mean, are you not wanting to play this game more than anything else that you've ever done in your sporting career? Because you're at the apex of the mountain. You're on the cusp of becoming a potential champion, or on the cusp of advancing if it's an earlier round that you're getting the extra rest for. You should not be sitting there saying, "Hey, man, let's mosey on through. Let's get back into rhythm." I think it's more of a focus thing than it is a physical thing, because I don't think I've ever gone a week off from a sport and thought that was bad for my body to be able to come back and say, okay, now I'm ready to get this thing rolling. It's all in my opinion, it's a mental approach to the game as opposed to a physical, let's say, wavering in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, beautifully said. I think that's where it comes down to me. The veterans have a better sense of being able to focus, being able to know what this means because they've been there before. Specifically the Celtics, Jason Tatum's been to the finals before, didn't win it. He knows how important this game is. He doesn't want to go back to the finals, lose again. As much as I don't want him to win a ring, he certainly wants to win a ring. He's been here. Most of this match, or most of the Celtics roster was there with him when they went to the finals and lost that finals. So I think they're going to be able to stay focused. I think they're going to know what this means, what the stakes are. And I don't think this rest will hurt them at all. I think it'll help them.
Well, rest will soon be upon SimWorld Prep as we head into the second to last day of the SimWorld Prep regular season. Thursday, of course, is the finale. We had action last night. We had the game of the week, which the scoreboard would tell you was a great one. It certainly didn't feel like that in the second half as the OGs roll 80-73, 29 from Christ Coates. Cooper Flagg plays just 17 minutes because of foul trouble, ends up with 13 points. Jay Laster with 18, and the OGs stun Philadelphia on the road for a pivotal 24th win that also, I believe, locks them up with the top spot in this Founders region, Ceej?
Look, Marsh, all I'm gonna say is, leading up to this game of the week, some dubbed game of the year, I heard a lot from Coach Drees. They were confident going into this one. What happened? What happened? Yeah, here's all I'm thinking. Yes, two great teams. There's no shame in losing to the Originators. Great team, got the #1 recruit in the country. Sure, you're the Philadelphia Elite. They are the most confident. They've got this aura of, we are Philadelphia Elite. Nobody can beat us. We're those guys. We stay ready for big games. The first half of this game, they did not look ready for this game at all. The second half of this game, they did a little better. But the first half of this game, they were not ready. And it wasn't even Cooper Flag. Although, you know what? I'll give Drees his flowers. I said hold Cooper Flag to under 20 on under 50% shooting. He did that. But you're going to let Christ Coates, who your defender of the year in Orland Mock was guarding, score 29 points. That's a career high. If you're going to dub yourself the best defense in SimWorld Prep, you can't be letting guys have their career highs on you. Not a great look for me if I'm Coach Drees in the Philadelphia Elite, this close to the run to one. It's a basketball's game of momentum. And I think, you're looking at, it's not a great look to me. There was a lot of talk, a lot of confidence going into it. And Christ Coates and Jay Laster ran you roughshod. They looked like Michael Jordan against you. Looked like Anthony Edwards. Looked like Kyrie and Luka, whatever you want to call them. They had a field day. Great shooting percentages, bunch of points. Your top defenders did not look like top defenders. If I'm Philadelphia Elite, I'm kind of hiding my face right now. What happened?
Yeah, you talk about momentum. I thought it was in that second quarter where, obviously the OGs won that quarter by 9 points, but I thought that's really where this game was lost by Philadelphia. OGs came out, they slapped them in the face. I thought Philadelphia responded well in that first quarter, but in the second, well, again, like you said, with a lot of the time with Cooper Flag not even on the floor, it was just the OGs in relentless attack mode. And it was a similar thing to what we just talked about in terms of rest. I'm not saying that this was due to rest, but rather the OGs came out trying to prove something, and they looked like it, right? They looked like they were trying to prove everything that people had believed about them to be wrong, right? They came out with an aggressiveness that was not matched. And when Philadelphia got that slap in the face, that punch in the mouth, they didn't respond emphatically enough. You can say Nas Monte Parson played well. You can talk about Jay Mills being efficient. But to your point, if Christ Coates is downhill, attacking relentlessly, and only missing 4 shots, this isn't a 29 points because he somehow hit 5 triples or 6 threes. He hit 3, which isn't nothing. But that tells me you weren't mentally prepared for this game in the way that the Originators were. And you can talk your talk externally, you could say what you say about being ready, but on the floor when the ball is thrown up, they just weren't. And I think there's not an X's and O's piece to this, because to your point, you hold Cooper Flag to under 20 points, under 50%. That should be a win. And it wasn't, because the OGs played with a fire that just simply wasn't matched. And in single games, and what we're going to see in the run to one, that at the end of the day is truthfully what decides more of this. It's not necessarily an X's and O's game plan. That's not saying it's not that. But a lot of the times it's what do you want? And the desperation level last night for the OGs was by far higher than that of Philadelphia.
Absolutely. The fire level that they wanted it more, but also I think one thing you said that I think you really nailed on the head is that the Philadelphia Elite came out with something to prove. They had hyped this game up so much. They game of the year, we're going to take it to them, all this stuff doing this talk. I didn't really see a lot of that from anyone on the Originator side. To me, it almost felt like the Originators wanted it more, but they also came out and handled their business like it was another game. Just another game. It felt like Philadelphia Elite came out and bought into the hype of game of the week and game of the year and all of this hype, and for first place. And this game did mean a lot. OG's locked up the first place in the region, all of that, sure. But they almost bought in too much to the hype around the game, and I think it showed. I think the Originators came out, handled their business, wanted it more. Philadelphia Elite, I think they got in their own head on this one.
All right, well, that wasn't the only game last night. Let's head to our SimWorld Prep wrap-up. We'll start with our noon tip-off down under, where a huge night, 33 points from Jarrell Bilchamp, 20 points from Damian Luffy, and a big ol' 75-73 win for SimWorld Oceania against the Bay Area Breakers at home.
OG travel take on Philadelphia. Just heard us talk about it, but Christ Coast career night, 29 points on 11 for 15 shooting. Monty Parson and Nas Hall both with 22, but it wasn't enough. Cooper Flag found himself in foul trouble, but OG's still pulled out the win, 80-73.
25 points from Gabe Pope, 21 from Dexter Jackson, and a 10-0 run to end the opening half is what powers Southeast Select past H-Town Hoopers 93-77. Almighty Soul with 21 points, 17 of them came in the first quarter.
Queen City Kings traveled to take on Gulf Coast Lockdown, a Southern Region matchup, and this was a slower paced game. Low scoring, but Marco Jacobs, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, had himself a day, and were able to lead Queen City Kings to a win 59-57.
Europe's big men played big. Ivan Suslov, 21, Andrei Ivanov, 20, and a blowout win for SimWorld Europe, 77-56 on the road over reigning Trays. Not a great night for the Trays.
Barn burner in California, SimWorld Africa versus Best Coast Ballers. Kola Abdul Rauf and Ethan Letterman both going for 33 on over 60% shooting. I mean, this was just back and forth bucket. Pseudo Choppa 29, but in the end, SimWorld Africa came out with the win, 91-89.
Essentially the exact opposite in Los Angeles, a 65-50 beyond the arch rock fight win. Brutal night shooting for Showtime, shoots just 37% from the floor, 15 points leading scorer. That's our that would be DeMarcus Owens. That's our wrap up there. A lot of action still to come tonight on Wednesday. We are back with a doubleheader. That's Lakeshore Drive and Beast of the East at 7 p.m. Beast of the East needing that win to try to get up to the number 2 spot. We've talked about this ad nauseum. Lakeshore Drive just trying to stay in at number 4 in the Founders region. We'll be back tomorrow morning, Thursday morning, to talk about all those things. No SWBA, as the Eastern Conference has obviously been wrapped up. So we'll talk some SimWorld prep and some other things going on in the sports world. Appreciate y'all joining us. Thank you to Ceej as well for coming on the show. We'll be back tomorrow morning here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.